are back with a Fox News alert. President Trump weighing in on that migrant caravan storming the border this morning.
Mexico should move the flag-waving migrants, many of whom are stone-cold criminals, back to their countries. Do it by plane, do it by bus, do it any way you want, but they are not coming into the United States of America. We will close the border permanently if need be. Congress, fund the wall, he says.
Here to react, we're going to bring in Dan Bongino, former NYPD officer, former Secret Service agent, and author of Spygate, the attempt to sabotage Donald J. Trump. Do it by plane, do it by bus, but they're not staying here. Dan, your reaction?
Well, Pete, listen, the chaos isn't a brand you want to run on. And the Democrats have shown no substantive policy proposals to stop this chaos on the border at all. Donald Trump right now seems to be the only prominent Republican out there really speaking out forcefully on this issue. Listen, guys, we were told a couple of things, right? That there was no caravan by the liberal media and the Democrats. That's clearly not true. And we were told, secondly, that this was not an invasion, which as of yesterday, granted, I don't mean to be hyperbolic about it, but clearly what happened yesterday were people trying to invade our border. I mean, it goes back. What do you believe? Your lying eyes or the liberal media? I mean, it happened yesterday.
Some of the Democrats were on the Sunday shows over the weekend. Congresswoman Maxine Waters called the border crisis a political ploy on behalf of the president, says he wants to stoke fear, painting migrants out to be dangerous and unfortunate. And then Senator Amy Klobuchar, she was on one of the shows, and she is blaming Republicans for all this. Listen, and the president.
My mom taught second grade until she was 70 years old, and she always told me, if you do something wrong, you don't tell the truth, you take responsibility for it. You don't blame it on the other kid. He controls the White House. His party controls the House and the Senate, and it is on them. He has gut-punched us on that a number of times. We have the will to put the money at the border for better security and combine it with some sensible reforms. He has chosen instead to weaponize this, to politicize it. And I just think it's wrong for our economy, and it is also wrong for our work with the rest of the world.
Dan, your reaction?
No, I don't accept that. And you shouldn't either. You know, I wake up every morning like, thank God I'm a conservative because I don't have to lie to people like you just, that's lie. Listen, and I don't want the focus group tested crap either. Oh, they're not lying. She's just lying. She made that up. Donald Trump offered them a deal on DACA. He offered them a deal. You give us the wall, right. We'll give you your DACA, which I didn't even agree with, by the way. But Amy Klobuchar going on a national television program and claiming that deal never happened and that Republicans have no solutions on immigration laws. And do you understand, guys, that's a lie? Amy Klobuchar just made that up. And if you believe it, you're a fool. That did not happen. You can just go to this thing on your phone called the interweb and look it up yourself. It happened. Donald Trump offered them a deal. The Democrats don't want it. This is garbage. Well, how can you be a liberal and lie to people like that on TV?
Well, that's
and
what
they get away with it. It's a shame.
She traffics in that. She pretends to be Mrs. Nice from Minnesota. She has the highest turnover rate of her staff. They do duplicity as a job description. She plays a moderate, but is an absolute voting leftist in the U.S. Senate. It's the way they all operate, Dan.
Duplicity. That's the best word, because Amy Klobuchar is not ignorant. She's a bright woman. Yes. And I wish she was. If she was dumb, you could say, oh, don't worry, she just doesn't know. She does know better. She's very smart. She knows what she said on immigration is an absolute lie. Trump offered them a deal. The Democrat, not only that, Pete, he offered them a deal on the DACA side better than the one they would have gotten under a Democrat administration. And the Democrats still said no, because they don't want Donald Trump to have a win policy-wise on immigration on anything, because they are obsessed with taking this president down. It is disgusting. This is what you voted for in the House and the Senate if you voted Democrat, by the way.
Dan, as we look at these images from yesterday around the noon hour out on our West Coast, you can see the migrants are throwing things. A number of Border Patrol agents were hit by rocks. They were able to, about 50 of them were able to squeeze through a hole in the border wall. And then to disperse the crowd, Border Patrol, as you can see right there, used pepper spray. Tell us what pepper spray is like.
Well, you have two different types of these non-lethal chemical devices. You have lacrimators, which make you cry, they make you tear, and you have pepper, which basically burns. But it's temporary, thankfully. Listen, it's not preferable. I'm not suggesting it's a pleasant experience, but it doesn't do any damage. And the minute you put water in your eyes, it's over within a few minutes. But again, it's an unpleasant experience. But Steve, I ask people who have a problem with this, well, what do you want our brave men and women defending our border to do if they're having rocks thrown at them and you have a bunch of people storming the border? What's your option? What do you want them to do? Use foul language? I mean, there's nothing. They have to defend themselves. These are brave men and women defending our border. This is not a pleasant situation. I'm not suggesting that there are good options. I'm suggesting to you there are only less bad options.
Right.
And this was the less bad option here.
And Dan, we see these images on the front of every paper. It shows a woman and her two children who got some of the pepper spray. We don't want women and children or anybody to wind up getting pepper sprayed.
No, of course not. But Steve, the only way to stop that is to not storm the border and enter legally in a port of entry.
If you don't want a speeding ticket, don't speed.
Nobody wants this. No sane person wants it. Nobody. But you have to look at the choice spectrum. Who made the choice here that caused this? It wasn't us. We didn't cross into the Mexican border and start using lacrimators and pepper spray. We did not do this. You decided to storm a border. It's not pleasant. It's not nice. It's not cute. And it's nothing to joke about. But what is your option? How do you defend our border? Cheap talk? What are you going to do? I'm serious. To anyone out there, what are you going to do? What do you think? The border is a suggestion? Then what's the point of having a sovereign country?
The left thinks the border is a suggestion.
Well,
their answer is let them in.
What's the point then, Steve? Pete, what's the point then? Why have a sovereign nation? Just screw the whole thing. Scrap the northern border, the southern border, ports of entry, and everybody just come in when you want.
Something's got to be done.
Just take what you want when you want.
No doubt about it. Immigration reform, border security, it's got to be addressed. Let's hope the new Congress does it, because the last one didn't do anything about it. Dan, thank you very much for joining us today from Palm City, down in Florida.
Got it, guys.
Battle at the U.S.-Mexico border. A major port of entry along the border has been reopened after a group of migrants tried to enter illegally over the weekend. Border Patrol agents firing tear gas at the crowds. It is so hard to look at these pictures. And they've arrested dozens of migrants. Local 10 News reporter Marcy Gonzalez, she brings us the latest from Tijuana.
Just on the other side of this fence is a tent city where many of those 5,000 or so migrants here in Tijuana from that caravan are now living, waiting, hoping to be able to apply for asylum in the U.S. That's the U.S.-Mexico border. So the United States is just on the other side of that fence you see there. There's so many of these migrants here, though, that many of them are having to sleep out on the streets here, you see. And it is a peaceful start to the day here, quite a contrast to the clashes we saw along the border at the San Isidro crossing near San Diego yesterday. It started out as a peaceful rally. Many of these families came out there for that rally. But then some of the people in the crowd began pushing Mexican police. And then some of those men in that crowd of migrants made a run for it, some of them trying to cross into the U.S. illegally. Now, initially they were saying about 500 people tried to cross illegally. Now Mexican authorities are saying it was fewer than 100, that they were all detained and they will all be deported immediately. As for the rest of the migrants here, the thousands of them and the thousands who are still making their way here to Tijuana, well, they say they plan to stay here and wait for as long as it takes the opportunity to apply for asylum in the United States. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, Tijuana, Mexico.
Marcy, thank you. And we'll be checking back with her. Meantime, President Trump responding to the clashes on Twitter today, writing, quote, Mexico should move the flag-waving migrants, many of whom are stone-cold criminals, back to their countries. And also, we will close the border permanently if need be. Congress fund the wall, end quote.
And now to the Trump presidency and President Trump defending the use of force yesterday against those migrants at the border. Mr. Trump saying anyone trying to enter the country illegally will be stopped. CBS 4's Diane Magnum is live in the control room with the very latest. Diane?
Elliot, the president seizing on yesterday's conflict to further brand those South American migrants as, quote, stone-cold criminals, and to push his political agenda that includes building that wall. President Donald Trump has threatened to close the southwest border permanently, one day after protests by Central American migrants seeking asylum turned into chaos.
They were being rushed by some very tough people, and they used tear gas. And here's the bottom line. Nobody's coming into our country unless they come in legally.
U.S. border agents fired tear gas after nearly 500 migrants tried to illegally cross the border Sunday. Mexico saying it's now deporting 98 people who were involved in the clashes and is threatening to deport even more. President Trump reiterated his call to Congress to approve money for the border wall. The next government funding deadline is less than 2 weeks away, and in the past, the president has threatened to shut down the government over the wall.
This would be a very good time to do a shutdown. I don't think it's going to be necessary.
Republicans say they are currently working to get more funding for the wall, while Democrats say there's momentum for the next Congress to tackle comprehensive immigration reform.
I think Democrats in the House are serious about comprehensive immigration reform. I think we have some Republicans in the Senate, and let's see if we can do something.
Lawmakers have tried for decades but have yet to reach an immigration deal they can pass. Also tonight, House Democrats could be gearing up to investigate the president's deployment of more than 5,000 U.S. soldiers to the border. Representative Adam Smith, who could be the next House Armed Services Committee chairman, has sent a letter to President Trump asking for legal justification after the president authorized the use of deadly force at the border. In the control room, Diane Magnum, CBS 4 News.